cool stuff to do with JavaScript. I am Moacir Dessa Pereira. I'm the research data librarian at Columbia University Libraries. And beside me is, in a nearby building is, please introduce yourself, Mr. Heel.
I am Alex Hill, the Digital Scholarship Librarian, also with Moacir, part of the Research Data Services at Columbia University Libraries.
Right. So while I get the environment up and running, Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here? Just a quick, previously on.
Previously on season 1 of the Rose of the Studio Remote, the Rose Hole project, we were doing a mock-up of the data that we're going to use in our project. We decided to use a mock-up instead of the original data for several reasons. The main one being that we are not yet ready to share the original research done by Celia Naylor. We will share that with you when we launch the project. Now, we almost finished mocking up the data. So today we're going to finish that process of mocking up the data, and we're going to ingest it into the project. And if we have time, and our tests are running smoothly, we might even start doing a little bit of visualization today. So stay tuned. Let's see if we actually have time.
Right. So the as far as the actual video or visuals of the website or where we left things is actually how this looks didn't change at all. I don't think during our last meeting. So we have this static image that I just threw in to see what a visualization would look like here. We have these links that work fine, but don't actually take you anywhere. Actually, there is no link at the top to the front page. And then we have this list of enslaved persons, which is just 2, Alice and Bob. And then last week, we used a Jupyter notebook to go over the data and have a look at the various, to be able to talk about what the data looked like. So here I'm opening the Jupyter notebook. And I think the website is jupyter.org. Alex, can you check that and paste that into the chat on Twitch? Are you on the Twitch chat?
I am not. I do not have Twitch open for bandwidth reasons, but I can.
Okay, then I've got it already here, so I'll paste it in. So the Jupyter Notebook is a way that you can execute Python code on the fly in the browser using these files. So this was us looking over the data, and you can watch last week's episode whenever we get that archive together to figure that out. Alex, can you give an update on the archive, sort of?
Yeah. After today's episode, I have to finish uploading the last 2 episodes. I was waiting to do a guide for episodes, but I think that's going above and beyond the Call of Duty, and I shouldn't just wait to present the archive when I get these aspirations fulfilled. So I won't wait for the aspirational, and we'll share the archive, which is where the value really is in these videos that we do, not in any kind of summary.
Well, both are valuable. Like a sort of highlights clip, I think, is useful, especially once we start being able to kind of shorten the videos while they're still. So the way Twitch works, for those of you who don't know, is that they keep your videos on their servers for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, you can make little highlight reels out of them, like just find like the most interesting 2 or 3 minutes, much like if you listen to a podcast that they're like, hey, listen to our Patreon episode, and here's a teaser of like the really funny jokes that are only for Patreon. And so this would be the same sort of thing, is because those shorter videos, Twitch lets those be underneath on our regular page. So people who just come, they'll see the most recent stream who come to twitch.tv/cool studio, which is of course what you are watching this if you're watching this live. And when they come, they'll see the stream, and then underneath they'll see a couple like the sort of highlight clips. We haven't gotten around to making those yet. Things have been kind of busy here, but that's the goal. So there will be a permanent archive, quote unquote, permanent archive on YouTube of the actual raw show, the full 2 hours that we do every week. And then there will be highlights on Twitch, and those highlights will be mirrored on YouTube as well. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, great. So I guess we can move back to sharing and start talking about the data. So I already showed the Jupyter Notebook to see what that looked like when we were doing the data sharing. Here I have here in the terminal, this is the workspace up here, and down here in this little window underneath. Oops. In this little window underneath is where Ember is actually serving the web page. Is where Ember is actually serving the web page. Oh, that was you listening to me on Twitch, Alex? 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 Alex?
Yeah, sorry. I lost sound there for a second. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Right. Yeah. When you open up Twitch, audio is enabled by default, and I started hearing myself feeding back because I guess you had your speakers on. Yeah.
And okay. That's why I lost sound, because I immediately noticed that and I muted it.
Yeah.
So.
You know what helps with that?
Headphones. They're fantastic for that. I happen to have some right here.
Tips for tots. Anyway, so I'm still sharing my screen. So like I said, down here in the bottom panel, we have Ember is serving this website, this basic frame so far. And then up here, we have the workspace. So we started with, to kind of describe where we were, we have this router. Actually, let me open this in VI. It'll be a little bit easier to see because we'll have syntax highlighting. Okay, so the router in Ember basically says, here are what we think that what URLs exist on your web application. So there's a URL, the index, the main page / or the index is implied. You don't necessarily have to declare it explicitly. You can if you want. But yeah, so there's an about, bibliography, essay, credits, just like what we have here. And then we have this route people, and then it has a subroute called person. So if we go to people, let's see what happens. I think it may just crash. I don't remember how far we got. There we go. So this is as far as I got. It makes a list of 208, I think it is, people, gives them all a made up name, and says they were all born in 1800. So what this is doing then is related to the people route. Oops, this route here. And if I open up then app routes people, you can see that it's a function called people route that provides this method model that creates the model is the data that's showing up in that page. It's called model. And what it's doing here is it's creating a list or an array called people, and then it's populating it with people with a fake name that's here. They have an origin of Creole, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Alex, did I write a data description? There we go. Yes. Excellent.
You did?
Yeah, it's almost like I was prepared for this sort of thing. Okay, so the birth year is a random number between 1760 and 1830. Do you know how to get a random number between 1760 and 1830 in JavaScript, Alex?
No.
All right.
I'm hoping there's a function for a random integer.
There may be. I think so. If it's what we can do is we get a 1760 and 1830 are how far apart? 70 years, 70 years, right?
Yes.
So we get a number, a random number, which will be between 0 and 1. We multiply that by 70, and then we add 1760 to it.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And now let's see what happens here. Oh, sorry, that was quick. It no longer gives an integer.
What does it do?
Well, you can't see?
Yeah. Well,
Or you
it's
want me to
super
explain?
tiny.
Oh,
No,
this
it's super
is
tiny.
what's that?
It's too small, but it's a.
Oh, it's too small. Sorry. Okay. It's giving floats.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's easy enough to fix. Math floor. Let's spell floor correctly. Ta-da!
Okay.
Okay, now what is the, so that's the birth year. Then what did we have here? The exit year. What are the rules for the exit year?
That they all 1931, I think. That's the 1932 is the max. So it has to be somewhere before 1832, not 1932, 1832. Right?
Yeah, so it's a random number between 1818 and 1831, but 2/3 of the time it's 1832.
Right.
So math, random. Two-thirds of the time.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of the time we return 1832. The other times we do math random again. So we do what we did above, math floor, math random, but what do we multiply this time by?
2/3, which is 0.66.
No, we did that above. So this is doing 2 coin flips. For the first coin flip, if the number is less than so less than 0.66, we just say the exit year is 1832. If the number is greater than 0.66, then we flip a coin again to get a new integer or a new number between 0 and 1. And then we multiply that by the range, which is 1831 minus 1818, which is 23.
Oh.
And then we add 1818 so that it scales to shift to being between 1818 and 1831. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's and left in person exit year. So how come everybody is 1832? Can you tell?
No. This math is beyond me. I would have moved the place, the people in the data set. That's what I would have done.
AR Jester is asking in the chat if there is a function that does random draws from within a set. Let's ask, because that may solve the problem a little bit more easily. There may be, although the doing it the way we did it is also fine. So yeah, so they have get random integers here as you multiply by math floor. So between two values, it's the same thing. You have to use math.random at some point. But now this. Yeah. That's why. Do you want to explain what the problem is?
You had already set it as an absolute value.
As a constant, yeah. Oops. There we go. 1830. Nope, we shouldn't have anything above 1832. $18.18. Oh, it's just 13. Wait, yes. Okay. This is what happens when you get two English majors programming. Am I right?
I would have rearranged the things on
Oh, come on. This is more fun.
on the sheet. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next is, so that's birth year, exit year, name we've got, ID. It says here to do blah, 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 but I think that we can just do, do you want to explain what this is, Alex?
That is creating a unique ID for this as a variable that changes as you iterate.
Yep. So I grows here. And
right, it's not going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be P1, P2, P3, P4, P5.
Exactly correct. Slug we can skip for now. Well, for laughs. Name and then ID. Okay. Gender, 50-50 male or female.
That one's just a flip of the coin. There you go.
Color, 85% Negro, random for Sambo, Mulatto, or Quadroon. Okay. You should be getting pretty expert at this already. Right?
Yep.
Alex? Negro.
But we don't know what I don't know. Do you remember the percentages that were in your data analysis the last time?
It was 85%
what you-
Negro, and then Sambo, Mulatto, and Quadroon were more or less evenly distributed in the remaining 15%.
Got it.
This is clumsy, but it'll work. Is it clear what's going on here? Apparently not, because it crashed. So mostly Negro. I saw one mulatto here, one quadroon here, another quadroon, and a Sambo. Looks good. Is that it?
Looks good. Yep.
Origin. So let's just copy this. So what is this? 72% of the time. Creole. Then do you see what the problem is here? Why I can't just put math random is less than 20.25?
No.
So what this is it's a tree of binary coin tosses, right? But they're not 50-50 coin tosses. They're weighted coin tosses. So we have a distribution that's 72% Creole, 25% African, and then the rest, which is 3%, is Creole African or not specified, right? So the first time we flip the coin, 72% of the time, it's going to be Creole. But the rest of the time, the other 28% of the time, it has to be either African or Creole African. So we need to find out what percentage of 28 is 25. Luckily, that's just math. So 25 over 28.
Luckily, ladies and gentlemen.
89, 88. So let's just call that 90%. So, so Creole. Then 90% of the time during the second coin toss, you return African. And then the rare rest of it, return Creole African or not specified. So mostly Creole, a couple African. Here's a Creole African. And it may, okay, there's one not specified. We should expect one or two not specifieds and one or two of those question marks. Okay, I guess we have 3 this time around, 4, but you know, randomness, what are you going to do? All right, so this is now returning this this array of people that were created in the sense of fake data, and we can view it using the Ember inspector as well. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, I can make it bigger here. So if I look here, it says model types person. There are 208, and it shows up like this, like a spreadsheet. Come on, you think that's kind of cool? Alex?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right. One little thing here. Then where else does that happen? Actually, oh no, that's right. I can just leave that like that. So now when I reload, now we see that the slugs come in as in lowercase. All good?
All good. Do we have data now?
We have data now.
All right.
So what do we want to do now?
You said you wanted to test it. You want to bring it in and then test?
Yeah, but you know, I'm kind of thinking that was kind of a lie, especially the want part.
Oh. Yeah, we have to test it. We have to make sure it's coming in. Yeah, you have to put it in and you got to make sure it's coming in.
I mean, I suppose.
I wouldn't for this project.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't need to for this project, but one issue is that, so in Ember, it's normal to have the routes work this way, where the you know, where you have the people route, and then there's we haven't touched the person route yet. We just have the people route for now.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want is, we don't want this. We want a list, but we don't want the list at localhost 4200/people. We want the list here.
Right.
So we need to figure out a way to get that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good next step. Getting in the data in there.
All right. So do you remember why?
How we did it on the first one?
No, I know, I don't expect you to know. And the way we did it on the first one is we used the real data, and we did it using Mirage, and that's fine to do it that way, but it's too complicated to implement right now. What I was getting at is that this route, the people route, is this file here that does all this work. All of this, remember, this is the people route that returns all of this stuff.
Right.
Okay. So if we want that list of people to be available here, what route is this?
That one is called the visualization route.
Why?
I think that's what you call it, the vis. Why did you call it the visualization?
Where's the visualization? I'm looking at all the routes in the Ember inspector.
Oh no, you put it.
I don't see.
I guess it just went into the normal, into the index. Is that what it was? We just put it in the index, so we don't have a route separate for that.
Right. This is the implicit index route.
Yeah.
And we need it in the index route.
Right.
So what we do is this is sort of, I mean, in my opinion, this is slightly like this is more than day one Ember. Implement fake data on people route. So we have to generate a new route called guesses?
Visualizations.
No, index.
You want to keep it in the index and just create an explicit version of the index route.
Yes, while there's only one in visualization.
Might as well. You're right. Might as well. I mean, later on, if we want to have multiple visualizations, then we should create routes for those. But yeah.
Yeah. So there's already an index template, but there wasn't a route.
Right, because it was, yeah, the route is implied as being the de facto main route.
Exactly. And the route is a little bit like the route file is a little bit like this new file that it created, app routes index.js. This is a little bit like the controller in Rails. I don't know if that's helpful. Here's where you say, yes, Monster, it's very helpful.
To me, because I know what Rails is.
3,
Yes.
2, 1. Come on, you didn't say it was helpful.
It is very helpful, Monsieur.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. Okay. So all I did was copy and paste. And now nothing happened because we need to tell the list to get populated here. Do you remember what this is? Actually,
we called it the sidebar or something like that. I can't remember. If you go to the template, I can tell you exactly what we called it. Information list of, there it is. We called it ID list of enslaved persons.
right. So,
but instead of having constants there, we should have a little pipe. Here we go. You can get rid of Allison of the fake data. Yep, for each person inside the model, add the person's name in a LI element.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, but it works.
Yep.
I don't think that, unfortunately, we couldn't pass a variable to give names that are from the early 19th century.
Right, because the data said that the generation is kind of fake Anglo-centric 21st century.
Although Magali is, I had a student named that actually at NYU. Maybe
No, I'm sure.
like,
I'm
not
sure
allowed to
there's a
say
lot of
that,
tokens
probably.
in there. I'm sure there's a lot of tokens in there. That sounds about right.
But this is the Magali I grew up with, though.
Don't dogs poor Magali. Oh, the cartoon Magali.
Yeah.
It's Magali in Spanish.
I'm pretty sure it's Magali in Portuguese.
In Spanish,
yeah.
it's Magali.
You just said it two different ways.
No, Magali. There's only one way.
But then you just said it Magali.
No, the Magali is Portuguese. Like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. But
oh, okay, I see.
Magali is in Spanish, in Dominican.
Got it. Yeah, so she eats a lot.
All right.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm into these names actually. Man, fake name generators are the best.
No.
Anyway, okay. So what next? What do we want this list to do?
So each of the things in those lists, we wanted them to be a different card that has the available information that we're going to have. So everything that you captured should be below the name, and there should be a way to differentiate visually between each of the different cards. For now,
So
what
hold on a sec. Can you annotate? In Zoom,
no,
go to there should be an annotate, a pencil button.
there should.
Yeah,
Where?
you know, next to all the icons.
I do not see a pencil button.
You have mute, stop video, participants. It may be under more.
Nope, it is not under more.
So you can't like go like this.
Nope.
Are you jealous that I can?
It's your screen.
But
If
you should
switch
but
it to my screen, I would do it.
No, but you're the host.
But I do not have a pencil.
No, it says here disable annotation for others, and it's not checked, which means you should be able to do it. I think it's in the more thing.
And I'm looking at the more thing right now. It says stop live stream and breakout rooms.
Okay, I believe you. Okay, I was going to ask you to draw. So you want, when I click on Brett, can I make this line fatter? Yes. You want it to be that when I click on Brett, like something opens up like this, that has the supplemental information in it?
Yeah, absolutely. But for now, you don't have to actually hide it. So we don't have to close the drawer. We can just start with the open drawer. Then we'll worry about the closing the drawers and opening and when we click on the names. But for now, we can just have all the open cards. And in this case, just put Brett and Kennedy, Hillary, etc. in bold letters, and then put the rest of the information in normal letters. So because the important thing right now is just to bring in the data.
Okay, so let me stop the annotation. And then what?
I like how the annotation from the other screen kind of made it into this one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the annotation might work on my screen if I was sharing it.
All right, no smileys. This is serious stuff. Okay. So this should be bold. I think it's font bold. Yep. And then you think that there should be what here?
Right below it, we can create, we should bring in person, origin, person race, person, all the different things that we've been capturing. Birth year, exit year. So you basically have the data next to
Sure.
in the parallel screen. You could copy and paste it for all that matters. We just want to make sure that the data is coming in. Inside one LI, you don't exact,
right.
But don't create a new UL for this.
Oh, I did.
But don't, because you can actually just put it inside the same LI. Oh, I see what you're saying. Instead of keeping as a phrase, you actually are going to list it. You could keep it as a phrase. I actually kind of like it.
I think, well, I mean, I guess this is sort of
We have the data is consistent.
a discussion to have.
Yeah, is the data consistent? Is there any gaps in the data where like we wouldn't have a category filled out, like a cell filled out?
No,
So that means that every sentence would actually be complete.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it starts to break a little bit of that kind of tabular logic that that dehumanizes people, right? Like,
Okay, so we can do it like this.
I think actually the sentence you had was good. Was it,
I wasn't a big fan of it.
you didn't like the sentence?
Instead,
We can make a better
well,
sentence,
hold
but
on. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So
yeah. We can actually even have a little logic later that will, is there any way to know if they were born there or not from the data that we can deduce it?
So
Because we can have a control flow
Well-
if it is possible.
right, I think that. So I am not there. Clearly, if the birth year is before 1828, no, 1818. Clearly,
Right.
if the birth year is before 1818, then that's their birth year, right?
Right.
The assumption, actually, the assumption is that it's the birth year. That's why it's called birth year.
Right. But it's an assumption. It's not it's because it could be that they arrived at.
I seem to be, I'm pretty sure everyone listed as arriving at Rose Hall after 1818 was a newborn.
Right.
I could be wrong.
We can double check with Celia if you make a comment there in the code later.
Yes.
So that's, or we could do it the right way and actually just create an issue, a ticket on GitHub. Let's see how it came out. I like it.
We can do logic with the pronoun if you want, because we do have gender,
Yeah,
but we can hold off on that for now.
but English is pretty forgiving when it comes to sentences because of its genderlessness compared to like Spanish or French. or
Right.
Portuguese.
Right. Actually, these should be in quotes to indicate that they are historically specific terms.
Yes, good call.
Good.
Yeah, I like it better than the, like just bullet point list.
Yeah, and in my head, it was always going to look a bit like a driver's license, except the problem is we don't have a picture. So, and like the picture is sort of the organizing feature of a driver's license.
Yeah. Is this flex that it grew this much by itself just without asking anybody permission to grow this big? What was it in the CSS that it decided to just blow up like that? BG Green Flex Grow. Yeah.
No,
Flex
this is oh yeah, this is the information. So But what we can do is we can do
Just do normal flex.
MD max
Oh yeah, max width. That's be perfect. Give it 30%.
max W. I don't know if I can. I don't. I have the feeling that Tailwind doesn't play these games with max
Percentages.
widths. Well, no, it plays the games with regular width. But yeah, you see like these 7XL, et cetera, et cetera.
I cannot read that.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry, thank you.
Okay.
This
So-
is, by the way, Tailwind is tailwindcss.com. Yeah, so it doesn't only responsive. No, that's the variance disabling. Yeah, so in well, let's try. Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, so it doesn't have these fractional thingies built in.
Give it
However,
600 pixels and call it a day.
well, we're going to do this right, or we're going to do this right?
No, let's do it right. Let's do it right.
Okay. So if we go to the Tailwind configuration file, then here they have the Tailwind developer explained how to do this. We can add our own scale thingies, right? So the max width. So max width. Oops. Max width. Okay. So here are all the various breakpoints. And what did you want it? You wanted it to be
30%. 33%. 33%.
33%. So let's
Yeah,
do
let's do the rules of thirds. Rules of thirds. Yeah.
1/3 is 33%.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that this requires reloading the server. It won't automatically do it, but let's see if we get lucky. Max W 1/3. Oh, okay. Actually, we're closing in on break time.
Yeah, 349. But that's good because I mean, in my mind, this was what the first half was going to be, bringing in the data.
Yeah. To the question about randomness and picking from a random set, the something like Lodash will have provides those kinds of functions, I think.
You're going back to when we were trying to
From earlier. Yeah. So so with Lodash, instead of using math random, and I don't know why this is colored the same color as
the text.
yeah, I mean, this is
not the most accessible of designs.
yeah, this is accessible to no one, like rats now, and
it reminds me of that lady that once wanted I was working on a project helping her out, and she wanted, for ethical reasons, to hide the data on the webpage by doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it is both non-accessible and not really hiding it. It's like you're failing in every possible ethical regard.
Right. So Lodash provides a method random that will give you an integer between two numbers or a floating point number between two numbers. So a number that's not just an integer. And yeah. So I guess to reproduce the functionality of math random, you would do underscore dot random
Mhm.
0, 1. So it's nice. D3 also has something like that. And actually D3s is even better because you can get random, you can tell it what probability distribution to use,
Mhm.
which I used, I use when I animate things, because you want the amount of, if you're going to have something that takes a random amount of time to happen, you don't want to be like from 0 to 5 seconds and somewhere in between. You want it to be like, on average, it'll take this amount of time. And most of the time it'll take about that amount of time, but sometimes it'll be much faster or much slower.
Mm.
So that's why I love this. So like you can get all these rad different distributions in D3.
Mm.
And then they all have basically the same syntax as the Lodash one, a minimum and a maximum. And yeah, I mean, D3 is just,
And we're almost there.
so much. There's so much. Yeah, and we're almost there. Woo. Yeah. So
All right.
for sorry, my mistake. So for random uniform, that's the equivalent of Lodash's random, or the equivalent of math.random.
Mhm.
Those use the uniform distribution. So there's an equal probability of getting a number anywhere between your minimum and your maximum. But as you move up, the parameters change in relationship to the distribution. So with a random normal, the first number is mu, which is the mean, the center of the bell curve, and sigma is the standard deviation. So so if you put in random normal with a mu of 1 and a sigma of 0.25, then around 70% of the time, the number will be between 0.75 and 1.25. And 95% of the time or more, I can't remember now off the top of my head, two standard distributions. Yeah, around 95% of the time, it'll be between 1.5 and 2.5, or sorry, 0.5 and 1.5. And then 99 point whatever percent of the time, it'll be between 0.25 and 1.75. But it's entirely possible to get like negative 10,000 as a result.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry, it's break time.
This is fascinating, but
maybe. Math rules, even though we're bad at it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What did you want to say? I cut you off.
Yeah, we're approaching break time. I wanted to see if your server had restarted and to see if actually it worked.
Oh yeah.
Remember that thing we were doing before you went down the rabbit hole of randomness in the universe? We were checking.
Oh, I quit screen share. Sorry. Like just as you asked, I'm like, oh, let me stop screen sharing. So that's because in the background I made a bunch of changes. No, it worked correctly. So now you'll see the fruits of our labor.
All right, cool. So we can check the fruits of our labor when we come back in 5 minutes. Oh, you already have it there. There it is.
There you go.
There it is. Sorry, I didn't know you were restarting it. Perfect. This is it. For now, the data is coming in, which is what I wanted to see. The concept of using sentences is kind of starting to to show its fruits, to yield its fruits there. I like it. Later on, we can figure out like a nice design solution where like they become drawers that can expand or collapse depending
Yeah,
on how you
or
need them.
we can do that right now too, or not like right now, but we can do that when we come back from break if you like.
Yeah, we can do that. It has to happen at some point. So
We can.
no,
I
none
mean,
of
we
this
can.
labor is wasted at any point because everything we're doing accumulates to the real thing, except for the step of the fake data, which of course is because of the particular nature of this project.
Yeah,
So,
and this fantasy that it has value. You know, I know you're skeptical, but
hashtag change the rules.
spin it like a jackpot.
Just saying, easy solution is the one I like. All right, let's take a break and we'll be back in 5 minutes. All
No,
right,
10 minutes.
10 minutes, perfect. All right, see everybody back in 10.
All right, let me put our little message here. Make it big.
I like it. You see, this is the kind of solution that I really like. Instead of creating a fancy sign that says that we'll be back, look, perfect. It's even like every time, every day, the minute is different, so we can change it on the fly. It's amazing. Anyways,
See y'all in 10.
See you in 10.
How was your break?
I did not move.
I got up and walked around for like a minute, and then I came back.
I
Um,
did not move.
You know, TextEdit used to let you keep documents open without saving them, and you could quit and reopen all you wanted. And now it doesn't seem to let you do that anymore.
Not a big loss for our little sign.
I mean, I'm actually saving it this time because why not?
It's just a few bytes. It's not gonna kill anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. This is exciting because I think this is the first stream that we're going to do that ends up with me in the dark.
Oh, the sun already started setting. I need to turn on some lights when this happens, because this position is not the best when there's no sunlight coming in from that window. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I guess. So I don't remember. Oh, we were going to implement the card thingy. There was one little thing that I kind of didn't like. I mean, we can add a little bit more logic to the sentence that we already have. So let's, I guess, get down to that.
Yeah. What are some of the things we can? I mean, I know that later, for example, we definitely want to have kin relationships.
Oh yeah. So if we look here, you can see that there's definitely stuff that we didn't include. So gender, year birth, so mother, grandmother, great grandmother. We haven't done any of that yet.
It's more complex, but because we're going to be actually doing that kind of thinking for the graph itself.
Yes.
I didn't feel like we needed to do it right now. I just wanted to make sure that the data flow was working, that the data was flowing into the page.
Absolutely. So and that the reason that's tricky is because for something like name or gender, I mean, these are just strings, right? Like they're among the most primitive, let's say, data types you can have. Year is just a number. Numbers are very easy. But the mother is not a string or a number. It's a reference to another entry in the database. It's not a real database, but in the quote unquote database. So it's stickier in a good way, like, because that's the kind of functionality we're expecting from this. But it's not as easy to just go like make faker, like yeah. So we have okay, so what I wanted to do, we don't need to have the Tailwind thing open anymore. So to do this, Ember install composable helpers. So this is a great extension to Ember that I know about ahead of time. So I'm not like Googling.
Oops.
All right, what is it called? What is it actually called, Monsieur? Grr. Ember composable helpers is a great library for making composable helpers. Do you know about composing in terms of declarative programming?
No.
Did you learn like Lisp or Scheme when you were a wee bairn in the streets of the Dominican Republic?
No. I have lived my life seeking simplicity. I have not complicated my life in any shape or form. I'm so happy, let me tell you. What a life. Lived in the warm arms of JavaScript and Ruby, and that's it. Maybe a little Python here on the side. So happy.
So, so we've been kind of yada yadaing the. So I have to quit and restart the server because I added a new plugin.
Mhm.
So let's add the package JSON and the yarn lock.
Sorry, he's for those who
yes, thank you.
for those who are watching at home, this is a reminder that Monsieur created aliases for his Git commands, and what he's doing right now is a actual just adding, committing, and pushing the latest changes we were making before the break. It's not some weird software he has called GA or GCM. This is GA is git add, and GCM is git commit with a message.
Yes.
Yeah.
Add.
I got people walking in, and your screen is showing aliases. It's like,
What's going on here? What? I don't understand. Why does it say "Bam"? You did the thing after he pushes. That's an old torn apart gag. I added that. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So I spaced out for a second and started committing all that stuff. So we haven't talked about helpers.
Right.
So Ember has these things called, like, we've been yada yadaing the templating so far. Like, we were all about, or I was all about, oh, hey, this is all like HTML first and all this sort of stuff. But we've been like sliding over the fact that a lot of this looks like HTML, but then there are these weird handlebarsy things, right?
Are those the helpers, Monsieur?
Yes. So each is a built-in helper, and model is a I don't know if they're called variables. I can't remember off the top of my head how they're referred to here, but model is it has this little @ sign, and this is the value that is returned. Oops. That's the value that's returned in this function that I wrote earlier, right? It's referred to as @ model. If I change the name of this to something else, it would just break. I think it has to be called model. I don't think that that's like just a convenience. I think that they have to be called the same thing.
How many can you have?
Well, we'll get into that.
Okay, because if we can only have one, that kind of like not very happy about that.
So, and then, so what it says is it iterate over the list, because model is a list. Iterate
Right.
over the list and treat every iteration of the list as a variable called person. And that's why it's in between these pipes. So this is Ruby-ish.
Right. So no, that's why we got then that we end up with below with that syntax person dot some kind of attribute of the person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And but I'm just saying like this line looks like a 4 or like
except upside down, because it would be like 4 person in model, it would be the right way to say it in Ruby.
No, that's really,
Unless
that's how
you say
you do it in,
as.
that's how you do it in Python.
Oh, in Python, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm old and they all get mixed in my head by now.
Yeah, you do a dot each. I mean, this is a very terse way of doing it, but you can do a dot each do X, right?
Increase the font.
Oh,
Our
yeah,
viewers
yeah.
cannot read.
Our viewers can read. They just have difficulty
they're
seeing.
right.
A dot each, like you can do it this way, but you can also do a dot each do. Right. And open up a block. So anyway, so that's just the pipe thing. And this is a total non sequitur story. But yeah, so you end up with this variable called person. And then like Alex said, you grab the attributes. And those are all filled in between these little squigglies, in between the mustaches. So anything in between the mustaches is filled in by Ember. Ember is doing something with that information. The rest is just HTML.
Yeah.
Sort of. For in this example, it's just HTML. So now what's getting at me is this first sentence: arrived or was born in birth year.
Right. Let's do. Can we decide? Yeah.
So I'm saying we should be able to do something like if person birth year is less than, I mean, this isn't, I want to emphasize that this is going to break. This isn't going to come close to working. But
so
if
this is pseudocode.
Yeah, if it's less than 18, then we say person, or actually we don't even need, we can just do person name up here. Arrived at, then else
was born at,
or arrived at Rose Hall, or was born, and then something like close the if.
Right. You're going to need a space there. It's going to run it in as a sentence. There.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see. We'll see what it does.
Can you fix the syntax now? Is that syntax going to work?
No.
I mean, we get the concept. What would be the syntax?
Right. So this is where helpers come in. So the if is a real thing, right?
Right.
And that looks like this, like hashtag or octothorpe if else /if.
Right.
Like that's a real thing. The problem is that if in the Ember helper
doesn't take values like that.
Yep.
See.
So block if and inline if, I think is inline if, right? So if relies on a condition being true or not, right?
Right.
So
that's usually the case.
Right. So we have something that's 3 things long: person.birth year less than 1818.
Correct.
We need one thing there.
I have no idea what you mean.
So like, if this thing is true,
well,
if local time, if local time exists, if local time is a defined variable,
right
here, right? Can enlarge this a little bit. See, like they say, we need a way to display the local time if local time exists. It's very easy. If local time.
How would you create how would you create a condition so that it's one thing?
You compose.
Got it. Let's compose.
Let's compose. Let's compose.
Because literally it's usually you're testing whether something is equal to something for the most part, 80% of the times. And then in the other parts, you're trying to figure out whether it's smaller than or greater than. Actually, I would say 98% of the times it's whether something is or is not something else. So there's 3 parts. So compose is starting to sound to me like some kind of weird syntax of figuring out exactly the same thing.
No, dude, this is declarative programming, where what's important is not how something works, where you're not describing how to do something, you're describing what is to be done.
Oh. I feel like we should be in college, and it should be 3 a.m. in the morning, and we should be, talking about, what is time anyway? Because, in fact, you know what? I'm just going to talk directly to the audience. I'm going to bet here that all we're talking about is just a matter of syntax. Watch this happen. Watch this unfold. I don't even know where he's going with this, but watch this unfold in real time, people. Just a different way of saying the same thing. Watch it.
Well, it broke.
Okay, we'll get there. What is LT larger than?
Less than or equal.
Less than or equal. I mean, I'm already winning this bet. Look at the same 3 things. They're still there. LTE, the person, and the value. He just changed the syntax. That's all he did.
Wait, did
But
I
this
not?
is supposed to have a different ontology. It's
Did I-
supposed to be a different thing. People were high in the 60s and 70s when they were coming up with these categories.
No. This is all the rage, man. I'm here to proselytize. You got to learn this stuff. This is what all the kids are doing.
Sure, but it's only just a different syntax. There are still 3 different things there.
But so yes, if open parentheses person dot birth year less than 1818 close parentheses, then yes, we like that's what you could do. Like that would be correct JavaScript in the sense that that's fine. But it doesn't work for helpers in handlebars, because when you start nesting things, you have to start nesting them with parentheses. But the way that helpers work is that the operator name is always the first thing. And then you get the operator name is the first thing, and then you get the rest of the stuff. So you can't do person birth year less than or equal to 1818. You need to move the less than or equal to the beginning.
Right, but again, like, let me tell you, like my grammar school math teacher said, el orden de los factores no altera el resultado. The order of the factors does not affect the result.
But these aren't all right. So
there are still 3 factors, and they're in a different order, but you get exactly the same thing. I'm not gonna win this bet because you don't want to hear what I'm saying. But,
no. I mean, you're right. You're right in the sense that, like, this is not that. The value proposition. So
computer scientists and Hegelians care about the real difference that is going on behind the scenes. And those 2 categories of people that we're not. So, or maybe you are a secret Hegelian, but
I mean, not to my knowledge.
Exactly.
But I mean, like, what the composable helpers do is they provide a bunch of dinky little helpers like each.
Right.
Well, each is built in, but you know, they provide these dinky little things like filter, filter by, sort by, sort by. Like I'm sure that there's a random, yeah, shuffle. You can shuffle an array. All these sorts of like little functions that, oh, okay, that's what I was getting at. So under normal circumstances, like if you look here, let's go here. So you see if condition, right? And up here we have if this thing is true or if
Right.
at local time. Both of those are not defined here in the template.
Right.
Those are defined, in this case, we would have to create like an actual controller. Like earlier I
Right.
said that the route is a little bit like a controller, but
Right.
that's not exactly correct, because for us to be able to access what's in like that, this thing is true, that this refers to the controller for the route. On a
Right.
component, it's a little bit easier, but like, so that's code that has to exist in a separate file and it has to be in JavaScript, blah, 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 blah. What this does is it brings that kind of functionality and provides it here by letting us do, instead of doing if something is true, it lets us do if, then make a little teeny function instead
Mhm.
that responds with true or false.
Yeah, that's, I thank God this package exists, because it's
Yes.
simpler, way simpler to do it this way, and then
Right.
to do
Right.
exactly the same thing in the controller. But again, at the end of the day, you would have had to make it somewhere. I'm glad these people made it easy for us to have the shorthand.
Right. And it comes in really handy because, like, you know, making an entire, defining the controller just to like say like whether a birth year is larger or smaller than 1818. I mean, that's like goofy when you can just do it in here.
It's
Um,
right in line with overcomplicating things. I mean, it is it's part of the same theme that I'm starting to see.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, you know, the like I said, the kids like the like composability because they like declarative programming. If you're not sold on declarative programming, that's your bad thing.
I know. I am a cranky old man, ready to feed my pigeons with in the park.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be sold by any of this. The kids have a lot of ample time in their hands, it looks like.
These helpers can be composed together to form powerful ideas.
Ooh, ooh.
Well, composability is about having like dinky little functions like the other project that we're working on. If you actually look at the code that I wrote, you're going to be like, why does Monsieur put a function that is literally 3 lines of code in a separate file?
I can't. I can't. It hurts my soul deep inside. I just died a little bit inside. All right. So did it work this time? Yay!
Trisha arrived at Rose Hall in
That makes
1815.
sense. Yeah.
Clay arrived at Rose Hall in 1760.
Right, but we also, just to be clear for the audience, this is still a fake conditional because we have to investigate what would be the true right conditional here in this case.
Correct.
And it might be more complex than this. And if it ends up being more complex than this, then if it's not just a either or, but a more complex control flow, then it might make sense to go to that controller over there and do it over there.
It just dawned on me that for the fake data,
yeah, we could have used one of these things.
No, it is entirely possible for the person's exit year to be before the birth year.
Oh, because of the way we set it up, so some people are leaving before they were born, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's like
that's a superpower.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's like me like reading. That sounds like Dune. You know, like
it sounds science fiction. No, but
yeah,
but it's okay. We should fix that because it's gonna mess with the visualization.
Correct.
Because it will create negative space, since we're assuming that years will have positive space in the visualization. And I don't think we're ready to go into negative space territory.
We are not. So let's do two things then. let's go to the original route for people.
Did you see an
And
example? I
let's-
actually didn't see it where you were scrolling down an example of it
No,
actually
no,
happening.
it just like the idea struck me when
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started looking at the list.
Yeah.
But AR Jester was ahead of us and was wondering the same thing. So so I deleted the whole model function that I copy pasted. I deleted it from.
A Jester is my friend. A Jester is Ashley Jester, who used to
Ah.
actually work here. She was my counterpart in the social sciences. She was like me in the social sciences, and now she's at Stanford, and she's a good friend.
Yes, she follows me on Twitter.
Yeah, the old Ashley.
Okay.
Hi,
So you're out here doxing people.
Ashley. I think A Jester wasn't much of a hide there.
Okay, so
You want to sleep on it while we keep making progress today?
no. I'm just not positive that it'll work this way. Oh, okay.
Do
No,
a
no, no, this-
conditional in the other one. Do a conditional in the exit. Just a quick conditional. Check it against the value of the birth year, and say if it's lower, then rerun it again. And if it's higher, then that's fine.
Yeah, but
You already have the value available to
Hold
you
on, hold
because
on, hold
birth
on,
year
hold
has
on, hold
already
on.
been declared in the order. Just saying.
okay. So
Just saying.
no, you're right. So else birth year is less than 1818.
Correct.
Then we do this.
I'll be spelling all this stuff out because I'm not cool like you guys that can read all that nonsense shorthand stuff. Like you just said else. I never knew that the colon was else all along.
Yes, the colon was else all along.
And see this was like I need those big fonts, like put on my glasses and spell it all out. That's why I can't read that file for in the same boats. The one with the what is it, like 20,000 lines of code of JavaScript, and I'm like, no, I wanted to jump out my window when I read that, when I opened that file for the first time. So question mark at the beginning of the line is if, and then colon is else.
Yes.
Sweet. And how do you end it? Just by creating.
It's three things
is.
long. It's the ternary operator.
Right. So you don't even need a semicolon because I'm not seeing one. So.
Well, I mean,
no, you'll need it at the end of the const. But,
technically, they're nested.
Got it.
(1821), born in 1821, 1832.
I haven't seen one. Keep going, keep going. You can scroll faster in that. Nothing.
Wait, I think I can do this here. Please let me sort. Yeah. All right. 1829, 1829. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. 1826, 1827. Poor Hope. Heriberto.
That's a Brazilian name.
I was gonna say that sounds very Brazilian.
Totally plausible. Because there was inter-American trade. Actually, that was huge. And especially towards the end there, when the
Wilton,
the bad
another like ex-Brazilian name.
Mhm. When the bad English Empire was actually the one, they were actually the good guys there for a second, patrolling the Atlantic Ocean, trying to catch the Brazilians and the Portuguese, who were
Yep.
the ones who were bringing there towards the end. It was just Brazil and Cuba
Yeah.
that were getting new people, and it was the British who were actually stopping them. Which is like,
Brazil.
they got bad again towards the end of the 19th century with their scramble for Africa, but the British were okay there for a second.
Ashley, by the way, says it's a privilege to get doxxed by you. So, yeah, Brazil, as my dad
Sorry,
likes,
actually, if you didn't want it to come out, I should have asked you on the DM.
as my dad points out, yes, Brazil waited until 1887, I think, to abolish slavery, but the slave trade,
Yeah, that stopped midway.
that stopped in the 1850s. And not only the trade, but children were born free,
Right.
starting in the 1850s.
Right. And Cuba, similar phenomenon in Cuba, which I think 1898, if I'm not mistaken, during the American-Spanish War. But
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that.
That's it. I thought Brazil was the latest in the Americas.
Could be.
But
That's why I have to double check.
Yeah. But what was really interesting, I mean, like, I'm not a historian of the 19th century of either the US or of Brazil, but from the little bit I learned about Brazilian history, what really, like, this is awful, but it indicates the logic of slavery. What really slowed down the abolition movement was the fact that the coffee industry was not shrinking, but Brazil's dominance of the coffee industry was falling.
Mm-hmm.
So the plantations, especially around Sao Paulo, that were really like the coffee plantations were less profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the enslaved people were like the biggest asset the plantation owners had. Like like so much of their wealth was tied into these people. So like, it wasn't, so they would have become like poor because they saw this as losing a ton of money, so it wasn't about like a question of like racial superiority or anything like that, because like manumission was common. And I mean, well, that played in, but it wasn't like, it wasn't black and white, to forgive the term.
I'm sorry if I don't feel very sad about their
Oh no, I don't feel sad about
poor.
Oh no,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, expropriate that capital. But it's like awful to think of these people as capital to begin with, unless you're like, Gary Becker. But
that's what they were dehumanized into. They were dehumanized
right, exactly.
into commodities. It's a chattel that is the peculiar evil of chattel slavery. And by the way, I'm also learning about these things a lot as we speak, because when we started doing this project, my sort of understanding of Black Atlantic 17th, 18th, and 19th century was very limited. But and on purpose, I received an invitation to join the #Slavery Archive book club, and I accepted enthusiastically because we had started doing this project.
Can you talk about this? Like, is there like a link, a website
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff?
absolutely. There's a
Do you wanna do you
slaveryarchive.wordpress.com.
wanna share your screen and show it, please?
Yeah, people can sign up.
By the way, the sun has gone down.
Yeah, I know. I had to put my little lamp. So the slavery, actually, I have the autocomplete, I think, uh, on my Firefox. There it is. Slaveryarchive.wordpress.com is the site where you can learn more, and you can sign up for.
Oh, hey, look at those handsome faces.
Yeah, that's your co-host for Studio Remote right there. I mean, it's been such an enriching experience because I trained as a 20th century Caribbeanist at the University of Virginia, but I had so many gaps. I mean, I had like your average general education of somebody with a PhD, right? A general sense, more or less. But when you actually go into the scholarship, when you go into this historian's work and cultural critics and American studies folk, because the book club has a range like of authors and genres, you get such a richer sense of the complexity of these things, and then a lot more starts making sense. In fact, speaking of genres, like just on Wednesday we were reading Ana Lucia Araujo's Slavery in the Age of Memory, which is Ana Lucia Araujo is, of course, the founder of the club. Is super relevant to the work we're doing here. In fact, I was thinking of sending you a chapter in there because I just finished the book this week. And what she does is, she thinks of herself as working in memory studies, which she tries to distinguish between public history or just history, period. And she creates a framework for us to think about all the different ways in which we can do empirical study of memory. So she creates each chapter is of her book refers to a different type of memory. She has cultural memory, collective memory, public memory, artistic memory, official memory, and there's the weird category of public history. It's super interesting. And in the one dealing with cultural memory, she does a close reading of this phenomenon that we see. Everything is, of course, about the sort of thing that she's studying is the memory of slavery in particular. But she's trying to come up with a sort of framework for theorizing and understanding and studying memory of any kind using slavery. But cultural memory, she does a close reading of the walls of names, which apparently
the what?
The walls of names, which started with Holocaust. Okay. Started in the practice of remembering the Holocaust. This practice of actually, you go to the museums or monuments, or say her name, a hashtag, for example, would count as this, right?
Right.
But it started with the Holocaust when this was a way to remember people. When you start seeing the Jewish community, international Jewish communities, and allies, kind of starting commemorating. Sorry, looking for the right word. Commemorating people. Doing remembrance actively by doing these walls of names. And of course, then this started becoming a practice too in the memory of slavery. It was like you can see in the cemetery down in the where they found the remains of the enslaved people here in downtown. You see it there. You see it in so many places now that are doing these walls of names that come from the Jewish tradition, and you see it in the hashtag say her name. But we're doing it. It actually, that's what, like, I have to send you this chapter because it's kind of what we're doing is like a wall of names. We're doing the act of memory kind of in that vein, right? We're combining with some of the kind of thinking we're doing around visual representations and graphics. But at the end of the day, the way we imagine the phone just to be the wall of names itself. Like, I think at the core, what we're doing is this kind of commemoration. Anyway. So I started. I went into that tangent, but I started saying. I think the point of what I was saying is also that I'm starting to learn about these things, and I think it's such a rich literature. And there's so much. I think I'm getting the good sense that I think most of us, even the most erudite among us, live in a cloud of unknowing when it comes to the Black Atlantic and slavery, because there's so much that opens up right now
Mhm.
in that space.
The to bring it back to the Brazilian example, I wanted to say that the Field Sisters talk about this in Racecraft. This is one of their not critiques per se, but like, you know, when you're talking about like why there was so much, why was there a desire to not abolish slavery? You know, like I think that if you ask a random person on the street, like, why didn't the people in the South want to abolish slavery? What do you think like your average answer today would be?
Profit.
What's that?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you
Well, like
ask,
if you like a random
you ask
American,
a
if
white
you
person, a random
grab
American can live in the South or in the North or in the Midwest.
or in the North or wherever, a random American, if you ask a random American, why didn't Southerners want to abolish slavery?
Profit.
What? You're
Profit.
quiet for
They
some
say
reason.
profit.
Yeah,
I hope
well,
they say
I don't
profit.
think but like I don't know. Like to me, I would if you had asked me when I was a kid, the answer to like that question, I would have said, well, because they were racist.
Right. That is
And I think
not very
that,
far from the profit.
well, I think that racism may have made it possible to engage in this process, but like, would they have gone to war and all of that stuff just to ensure white supremacy,
They did.
not to protect their profit?
I mean, they were. That's what I'm saying. There, it's hard to disentangle them.
Yeah,
I mean, because supremacy means dominance over.
right.
So, I mean, it's that's this again. We end up in a matter of semantics again, like the composing and like the order of the factors does not affect the result.
Mhm.
They went to war because their dominance was being questioned, threatened, and that dominance, of course, materializes itself in financial gain too. Obviously,
Right. Which, yeah,
in a
which
capitalistic society,
persists to this day.
it's on.
Um,
It's you cannot disentangle them.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think, but that sort of not aha moment, but like, you know, when I was reading the Brazilian history, like whatever it was that I was reading, that was like, yeah, this was a question of protecting your investment. Like awful as that sounds, like that was or awful, not just sounds, but awful as that is, that was the kind of logic and calculation that these plantation owners were undertaking in Brazil. And you know, like it may not have been explicit, it may have been wrapped up in the language of states' rights, et cetera, but the like there would have been an option to you know, like, yeah, profit, like you said.
racist profit.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to play
a
with the
little fun.
light.
Yeah.
You know that I have to go back to the office because my white ring light arrived.
Uh-huh.
I just need to go pick it up because I ordered one because I knew winter is coming. The winter of our discontent is coming, and this little I have my book. It's my book light that is not enough. I could maybe
See,
put it closer.
I don't know why
maybe put it on the top
my
of my head.
my ring light, when I turn it on, it just looks like I'm smoking.
Yeah. All right. We're here to make progress on this project. We have 10 minutes left.
Let's get high.
No, yeah, you do look. This looks too much like the 70s. So, let us wrap up for today. I am glad. I don't regret these moments when we actually remember what we're talking about here. It's very important that we do, lest we get too comfortable in seeing this just as data.
Mhm.
So today we were able to bring in the data. We kind of saw more or less some of the mechanisms by which we can bring in data and control what data comes in, right? So we created some simple workflows and control flows. And actually we spoke of two different ways of places where one could actually manipulate the data. And one of them is actually directly in the templates using this kind of helpers, component helpers. Composable helpers.
And that, let me just quickly butt in to say that that is the ergonomical way of doing it. That's sorry, idiomatic is probably a better way to put it. That's the idiomatic Ember way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's that things are moving in that direction, because Ember is probably going to soon have it so that the template and the class definition exist in the same file.
Mm-hmm.
So as much, like, there's a lot to be said about logic list templates. Like Haml is one, I think, and Slim or whatever, but it's becoming the case that it's easy, quote unquote, easier to keep things in that HTML environment as long as possible, because that brings more people to the table, because way more people know how to write HTML than know how to write JavaScript.
Correct. So,
including designers.
Right. Right. Yeah, I of course I always lean in the direction of the kinds of things that are possible in smaller teams like ours in university settings, which is, it's funny because there is always this kind of back and forth between trying to do things that rain down to us from industry and ways to work with stuff that works at super high scales, which are appropriate within the university in certain environments. They just very, very rarely are appropriate in the type of work that we do in the digital humanities in particular. But so there's that tension, right, between these kind of tools that are made to work on these on these other kind of settings, because they're the mainstream settings are where the big money is, where the big websites are. And
do you mean stuff like Drupal or something? Like what are you?
No, I'm making like these kind of logics where you actually have that conversation involve like conversations where you have a designer team that would be involved in a process of like when you have a team of 12 people and everybody works in a different office. Yeah. And you know, and
Imagine.
It's like, not our environment at all. Our environment is like 3 cats, 1 zebra, and maybe a squirrel, and we're all in the same room. And
we're in the same Zoom. We're not in the same room.
Well, we're all in our different rooms in the same cloud. Yeah. Anyways, it's important to point out that, just to remind us from the beginning, because you've heard me passive aggressively poke, which I will continue to do until the end of this project, to kind of tease the idea that we need to complicate our lives. Going back to our first day when we were talking about, whether this is possible in other ways, and it is possible in other ways. We committed to do it in this way, and I'm not going to regret it. So I'm just gonna, we're gonna chug along. I pacify my soul by simply saying a passive aggressive thing here and there, and actually, I do think it's very valuable, all the different things that we're learning. But I just wanted to remind the audience that it is possible to do these kinds of things in different ways, especially if you're a beginner and if you're like, oh my God, I will never get to understand any of this. I'm like, well, there might be other roads to achieve similar results that actually you might be able, they might make more sense to you right away than this one.
And just to think about how this would have been done 10 years ago, or even in Torn Apart, like, what did we did that in 2018. Right. And that has JavaScript functions that are like returning entire blocks of HTML.
Right.
Like, we're not doing that here. All of that kind of work is being done at the template level, not at the class level or whatever, or at the JavaScript level. So And that's part of the declarative model, is that the implementation of what you're doing is not important. Like how the function determines whether one thing is less than or equal to another doesn't actually, like, you don't care. You just want to know that you just want to know that you'll get the same result every single time you send the same values in there. So that little mini function LTE, it doesn't rely on some kind of global variable or anything like that. It's like, give me two things, I'll tell you if it's the case that the first one is less than the second one, and that's it. And that's I think that's kind of a good way to sort of to think about these sorts of things, especially for beginners, because I know that, like, I don't even want to look at projects I was writing 5 years ago, because I know what it's going to be. It's going to be like enormous global variables. And I have like functions, that are nested 5 rows deep or whatever, that are mutating global variables. And that's so much complexity and so much, what it lacks is a separation of concerns, because then you end up with this completely tangled mess that you can't pull out a chunk. And if like one little thing breaks, it takes the whole thing out. And that's like torn apart is very much that way. Like if we had to make a change, like it's like even like we had that problem, like where it was like when there were a couple of things like this, like if you resized the window, then like they didn't redraw right, or like then there was another thing where like if you clicked on one visualization, then the other one would, like all these kinds of little things, like these the way the visualizations had side effects. They were unintentionally talking to each other, even though they were supposed to be isolated, because they actually weren't. Like the state of one visualization had nothing to do with the state of another visualization. But because, we didn't really know what we were doing,
we did okay, and I am sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but it is 4:59.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, but I think, yeah, I mean, yeah. We did okay.
We did okay. And we will continue. We didn't get to test, and we might not even test. But next week, decide whether if we decide that we're going to test, we'll test next week.
No, there is no next week.
Good call. There is no next week. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody who does celebrate, and those who don't celebrate, enjoy your day without Zoom. And
well, I mean, it might be a different Zoom,
right?
Or maybe everybody is just like I believe in science, but I'm gonna go to have Thanksgiving with my family anyway because I miss them.
All right.
That's what my Twitter is full of today. I don't know what your Twitter is full of.
It sounds like that, like yours too.
Well, so apparently there was like some article in the New York Times that was just like, I'm a liberal. I like masks. I voted for Biden. I believe in science, but I really miss my family. So I'm gonna travel for Thanksgiving because I just got to do it. I just got to do it. And I'm just me. Like
it's gonna happen.
I believe in science. So like while I'm there, breathing my air over 19 other people, it matters that I believe in science.
Good luck to everybody out there. Whether you believe in science or not, stay safe. Don't necessarily need to visit your family. You can Zoom with them. But we will see you then in 2 weeks.
Sounds great.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.